and that is the Atlanta Falcons. What we're doing is we're going across the entire NFL. We're reviewing the 2024 season, what happened, and then going into the 2025 offseason, then giving our predictions based off that for the 2025 season. And like I said, we are now doing the Atlanta Falcons. Last year they went 8-9, finished second in the NFC South, missed the playoffs. That is the 7th straight season without a playoff berth for the Atlanta Falcons. They were 6-6 in one possession games. They were 4-5 at home, 4-4 on the road. This team's interesting because this is somebody who is regarded as the team who's going to win their division every single offseason. It feels like everybody's all over them. They have the players, they have this, that, and the third, and they can never seem to get it done. And I just think that is indicative of this front office and the moves that they've have made over the last few seasons and the decisions who they've made to bring in as their head coaches.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this coaching situation hasn't lived up to expectations. I clearly think the Falcons have plenty of talent on both sides of the football, but the coaching staff has just misled them pretty consistently. This was a thing that I was going back and forth on. Is I know like they just brought in Raheem Morris, but is there and they I think that the Michael Penix situation bought him more time as a head coach, unfortunately for Falcons fans. But I think that there has to be some consideration for like a warm seat here for Raheem Morris if they're unable to make the playoffs this year.
Oh, if they don't make the playoffs, he's fired.
Yeah. So we're on the same page there because I think they have guys, they have talent, but they just have not been able to get over the hump per se. And they should be able to make it this season, but they should have been able to make it the last 3 seasons. And we've seen 7-10, 7-10, 8-9, just barely missing the playoffs. There's got to be a point where it's like, okay, this isn't the players. This is the coaching staff not executing and not doing their job. So it'll be interesting for this Falcons team, I think, in 2025.
With that being said, and some stats, I mean, their total team DVOA was 10th overall in the league, and that is because their offense was playing like well above average, like top half of the league, but their defense was below average, ranking around 29th in every single like possible category for them. This is just a bad defense like across the board. I mean, obviously everybody always talks about how they haven't been able to get a ton of sacks over the last like 5 seasons. I think it's been now like they're like bottom of the NFL. And same thing now with their secondary where like I like an AJ Terrell and I like a Jesse Bates. I think they're really good players, but like the rest of the guys on this team just like aren't very good. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is like, is this team just one-sided and is that going to really hold them back? Obviously if you're the 29th worst defense out of 32, and with finishing the season with like the second worst pressure rate in the entire NFL, they could have potentially done some things to address that this offseason, but we'll get into that when we do. Do you have anything that you want to highlight about this Falcons team?
Yeah, I think that it was important that you mentioned just the lack of pressure that they've been able to get along the defensive line. And like they've tried making things happen. Like when they brought in Judon, I think there was some expectation there that he'd be able to help this defensive line and sort of generate some more pressure. Clearly that didn't really work out as expected. But yeah, it seems like the defense is the side of the football that has really been letting them down. And Raheem Morris has a defensive background, I believe. So yes, as a head coach with a defensive background, if your defense is the issue, what does that say about you as a coach? Which ultimately could lead to his firing this year. So if this defense gets better, they're a playoff team. There's no way around it. I think they have the talent on offense. I think they have some guys on defense that are solid, but ultimately, if this defense doesn't get any better, they're still going to consistently be around 7, 10, 8, and 9, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think some also shout out Bijan. He's rushed for 1,400 yards last year, 14 touchdowns. He's a dog. But to get into like some of the storylines from this offseason, they obviously started well to date back. Raheem Morris, they go and they sign Kirk Cousins as a free agent, bring him in. Obviously, he's coming off an Achilles injury. Then they go and they draft Michael Penix Jr. with the 8th overall pick, obviously putting already into question why would you go ahead and sign somebody on such a big contract if you were just going to pretty much bring in their replacement as a top 10 pick, like not even like somebody who they're bringing in like later on, I'm thinking like of a Jordan Love situation when Aaron Rodgers was in Green Bay. It was like that was like the back half of the first round. So it is what it is at that point. But to pick somebody in the top 10, you obviously are expecting them to play for you. Then you start the season to 6-3. I mean, this is a team who beat the Eagles. This is a Kirk Cousins who threw for 500 yards against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This team's was really good, and then they kind of started to slow down. They have a loss to New Orleans, but Kirk threw for 300. Then you have a loss to Denver where Kirk threw for 175. A loss to the Chargers where Kirk threw for 245, and then a loss to Minnesota where he threw for 344 yards, and then he has a win over the Las Vegas Raiders where he threw for 112 yards. And then for whatever reason, and I'm really trying to figure out what was the shift at this point, because you're in a position now where you could potentially make the playoffs. Kirk, in my opinion, up to this point, has been playing pretty well. Like, I think that's fair to say. They make the switch on him when he's 7-7 off of a win, and they're going in to play New York, and they bring in Penix, where they ultimately win that game. But what was the reasoning of why they turned to Penix for the last 3 games of the season, where they ultimately go and they lose these last 3 games of the season, 2 games of the season, excuse me, and they miss out on the playoffs? I don't see the shift of what happened where the fall off of play and the increase of play for Michael Penix to kind of justify something like that, where you're going into the last 3 game stretch of the entire year and Kirk has you at a point where you're 7-7. You have an opportunity to make the playoffs, and then you put in a rookie quarterback, and then you go ahead and miss the playoffs. I feel like that didn't get talked about enough at all. That might have been one of the most interesting, and when you look at it now, honestly, a boneheaded mistake. I feel like you have to stay with the guy who has gotten you to this point the entire season, who's played the entire year, rather than throw in a rookie in the most important kind of like stretch of the entire season. And I feel like I've heard anybody talk about that.
Well, I remember watching some of those games. It honestly felt like Kirk Cousins aged 20 years
Yeah,
in
I
like
remember.
a 5 game stretch. Um, I'm looking at the box scores of those games, and so their loss against Denver, he 18 for 27, 173 yards, 1 touchdown. All right. Or I'm sorry, 1 interception. So he starting at that point, he just like started to turn the ball over at a crazy rate. He had 4 interceptions against the Chargers. Yeah, he threw for 245 yards, but no touchdowns, 4 picks. You go to the next game against Minnesota, 344 yards. Yeah, that's great. He had 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. Um, and then the game against Vegas, yeah, they won 15-9, threw for 112 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So like that was a defensive game, I think, a defensive win. Yeah, they won those games, but his play really started to fall off towards the end of that season. I mean, I think you make a fine case of like, yeah, they got to that point with him, but he just wasn't playing good football down the stretch. And it kind of seemed like things were starting to get worse. And yeah, they probably felt some pressure to play the guy that they drafted in the first round, which that probably played into it. But I don't know.
But
You're right. It
but
wasn't getting
why?
talked
Like
about a lot.
why at that point? Like why is there? I understand that there's pressure, but this is a team that like had an opportunity to make the playoffs. Like this wasn't like a team that like was just like like listen, Kirk, we're out of it. Like I'm sorry, like let's throw you on the bench and like hang out like off of a win against the Vegas Raiders. Not a pretty win at all, but off of a win. And when we're looking at the defenses of the stretch that Kirk went into that lull, let's say, okay, he lost to the New Orleans Saints. I think that that's a little inexcusable. Um, you go and you lose to Denver. Denver's at Denver in November. That's a tough place to go and play. They go and they lose to them. They throw up 6 points. Then they go to the Chargers. Chargers are a good defense. They were holding people to low points all season. And then you go to the Minnesota Vikings and they lose to the Vikings, where he did put up a good number statistically, but their defense goes and gives up 42 points. But everybody always talks about how great of a defense the Minnesota Vikings are. So I guess I feel like nobody has said like what absolutely malpractice that was from this coaching staff to be in a position to be 7-7 and at a stretch, the last 3 game stretch, to be like, okay, we have an opportunity to make the playoffs. Let's throw in our rookie quarterback who hasn't played a down all year. I think that that was absolutely ridiculous looking back at it.
See, I understand your perspective there, and I think it's fair. But that 5 game stretch, he threw 1 touchdown and had like 10 interceptions. And the thought process was maybe, okay, like we can probably get that out of this rookie quarterback. Maybe that's what it was. Plus, I think it was a combination of Kirk wasn't playing very well at all. And on top of you drafted a guy
I just feel like it's
that,
so misleading because you look at these defenses that Penix went against in the back half of the season. He went against the New York Giants, one of the worst defenses in the entire league.
oh,
They go
I'm
He
not,
goes against the Washington Commanders, one of the worst defenses in the entire league. Then you go against the Panthers, who was literally one of the worst defenses in the entire league. All of their best players were out injured. And I feel like the fact that they put up 24 against the Commanders, they put up 38 against the Panthers. I feel like those numbers are just they put up 34 against the Giants. I feel like Penix's numbers, and this is even going into this season too. I'm doing all of this because I'm just pointing this out. I feel like going into this season too is like people are really talking about how well Penix played towards the end of the season last year. Well, he went against the 3 worst defenses that he could have possibly gone against. And you obviously won against the Giants, but you lose against the Commanders and you lose against the Panthers. Um, and then ultimately, like I said, they miss out on going to the playoffs. But I just think that how hyped up Michael Penix has been, how much hype he's been getting this entire offseason. And now that I'm looking at like the complete like picture of everything, like the fact that that's who he played in the last 3 games, like I'm going into this season like more caution flag than ever.
oh, yeah, I agree with you there. I think that the hype around him coming into this season is not necessarily warranted. Like I have the box scores pulled up of those games. So against the Giants, he went 18 for 27, 202 yards, an interception. Against the Commanders, he went 19 for 35, 223 yards, a touchdown, and interception. And then against Carolina, he went 21 for 38, 312 yards, and went 2-1, or 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. So like he got a little bit better as things progressed, but the defenses also got a little bit worse. Um, so yeah, I think that's totally reasonable for us to go into this season with some caution about this quarterback, about Michael Penix. because the numbers weren't as great as people are making them seem.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm just gonna go out. That's just me. That's just my personal opinion of the situation. Is I think that that's inexcusable. I know Kirk was struggling at that point in the season, and it felt like right to make that move. But looking back on it now, it's like why not keep like who gives you the best opportunity to go and make the playoffs? I think that probably at that point was Kirk Cousins, and that's obviously not what happened. And we kind of have the answer to that now. And but yeah, I think it's crazy to throw in a rookie quarterback in the most three important games at the back half of the stretch of the year. But just something to point out, obviously. Let's go into this 2025 offseason roster losses. They lost Drew Dahlman and Grady Jarrett. Um, do you have anything else here?
Was the Justin Simmons deal a 1-year deal, or did they
Yeah,
extend him?
no, he's gone.
Okay, so yeah, he's gone. I've got Matthew Judon gone. I've got Rondale Moore gone. Richie Grant, Lorenzo Carter, and Ross Dwelly all gone as well.
Lorenzo Carter, Norcross, Georgia legend. He just retired actually. Um, Yeah, what's the deal with Justin Simmons? Like, why does it feel like he's so overhyped and like he's like nobody likes him? And like it feels like the public like loves Justin Simmons, but like he's just like not on a football team.
Yeah, it's a lot. I don't see it as often anymore, but he was always the name that every Eagles fan was like, they would post like Justin Simmons is still available, and then like the eye emoji on Twitter, and I would just be like, yeah, he's probably still available for a reason. Like I understand he has a history with Vic Fangio, but he's past the prime of his career. He's a little older, and he just got released by the fucking Seattle or by the Falcons for a reason. So like maybe he's not that good as everybody thinks at this point in his career. Like he was
Yeah,
really good, but he's probably not that good right now.
no, probably not. Some additions that they made along this team, they signed Ben DiNucci uh, to to add with
Ben DiNucci.
Easton Stick and Kirk Cousins. They add Ronnie Perkins and retained Mike Hughes, their corner. Do you have anything else here on your end?
I, I have Jordan Fuller, Leonard Floyd, and Divine Diablo
I like
as well.
Divine Diablo and Madden is a demon.
Sick
He
ass name too.
is. um, let's go into the 2025 draft because I think what they did was interesting and I don't hate it. I just am I just feel like what they gave up to get this done was interesting. And I'm looking at their depth chart as we speak, and neither of the rookies are starters right now, which is interesting. They go in the first round and they get Jalen Walker from Georgia, D end. He's a little smaller, I'd say, but I like him. Everybody kind of had him going in the top 10 and he slipped. And I felt like for the Falcons to get him at the value they got him at was good. And I like that. And then they go and they trade up with the Rams, and the Rams fleece the Falcons. I mean, Terry Fontenot should just have he should not be allowed to trade anymore. I'd freak out if I were you guys. And gets fleeced, and then ultimately goes and takes James Pierce Jr., who's talented but has like character issues. Let's say
Yeah.
like that is like a big concern with him going into the draft. Um, I felt like it wasn't necessary to give up as much capital to go and get him, especially when you look in the second round of some guys who fell, like Ozaraku fell, Mike Green fell. There's a lot of guys that were available in the second round who are starting on other teams right now who are going to get a lot of play on some other teams. Unless if you and listen, if James Pierce Jr. turns out to be a demon and is a great pass rusher, then we can shut up about this for sure. I like the Jalen Walker pick. I don't hate the James Pierce Jr. pick. I just think giving up the amount of capital that you'd had to move up into the 20s to go and grab him, I felt like it was extremely unnecessary and a bad move.
Yeah. So just to highlight what that trade looked like, the Falcons traded a 2026 first round, a 2025 second round, and a 2025 seventh round to the Rams for the Rams 2025 first round pick, which was pick 26, which ended up being James Pierce, and a 2025 third round pick. So um, definitely a lot
It's a
just to
big
move
haul.
up. But if James Pierce ends up being a stud, then who really cares? I do like him and Jalen Walker. They needed guys that can rush the passer. Um, and they clearly tried to address that pretty well this offseason. I mean, they added Leonard Floyd too, which we highlighted, but like, whatever. And then the third pick
Um,
that they had was Xavier Watts from Notre Dame, who that kid was a stud. The Notre Dame secondary, I said it in one of the other videos. I forget who else was drafted out of that secondary, but
Ben Morrison.
really, yeah, really one of the best secondaries in college football, and Xavier Watts was sort of the top part of that. So I liked that pick for them. Those first three picks, I'm a fan of.
Yeah, I'm right with you. Billy Bowman from Oklahoma too. I feel like effort wise, like I feel like you got to give them a high grade this offseason. I feel like they did what they were supposed to do. I think that their secondary is still extremely weak. But I think like from like an edge rushing perspective, they go grab two guys that which they needed to go and do. So I think from like execution wise, I think it's high, but like to
Yeah,
see it, we have to watch it play out and see what happens, and it could be even higher going into the season. So, uh, Terry Fontenot is it's weird. He's so up. It's just he's an up and down type of guy. It's like okay, is he could be potentially making good picks. Like he gets really good players. Like you know what I mean. Like Drake London's really good.
he
Bijan
gets
Robinson's
names.
really
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
But like at the same time, it's like, okay, like, well, then you go and you do like the Kirk Cousins deal and then draft Penix. Then you go and you finally draft a D end in Jalen Walker. It's like, okay, like, yeah, good pick. Like, that's awesome. And then you go and give up a haul to go up to 26 to go get James Pierce Jr. It's like, okay, like it's just there's so much give and take with this guy. It's interesting. Um, but to go into some Vegas win totals, their win total right now is at 8.5. To win the Super Bowl is plus 6,000. To win the NFC South is plus 210, and to make the playoffs is plus 142. Um, what do you think of that?
I mean, I just think we did the Buccaneers the other day, and I did pick them to win this division, but I think that this is another division where it's just like the gap between them and the Buccaneers. Like, I don't think the gap is like that insane. Um, I think that somehow the Falcons managed to win like 8 to 9 games every single year, even though they're not that good. Um, if the guys that they drafted this last offseason end up panning out, I think this defense will end up being a little bit better. The Michael Penix thing is probably the biggest concern in my eyes about the Falcons. They have pieces all over the field on offense. Obviously, Bijan's one of the best in the NFL. I like Drake London a lot. I feel like he doesn't necessarily get enough credit. Um, who is their other one? Darnell Mooney.
Yep.
He had like a low key, really nice season last year. Um, but and then Kyle Pitts is next up.
Yeah.
So, so no, I like the pieces that they have on the offensive side of the ball. I really just don't think Michael Penix really needs to try and do too much. Um, as long as this defense gets a little bit better, I think they have a chance to win the division. But based off of all the history that we've seen from the Falcons, they'll probably end up winning like 8 games.
I do want to say McGarry is on the IR. He's gonna have to do an IR stint. Their right tackle, who's a good player.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna go into my 2025 prediction, and I said this last year when we were talking about them, and I'm gonna say it again. Raheem Morris has just never been a head coach, no matter where he's been. in the NFL. It's never really panned out. And with that being said, I just think it's going to be the same situation that as it was last year. I think he made questionable decisions the entire year. I don't think that their defense is going to be that good, regardless of the additions that they made. And I am like, I don't think that they have this quarterback situation figured out. I'm not going to let Michael Penix throwing for 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions down
Yeah.
the last 3 games stretch of the season against the worst defenses in the entire league have me buy into this Michael Penix train like he's going to be like one of the best guys in the NFL. So with that being said, I think that we're gonna kind of see the same thing over and over again. Bad. Let's just call it as it is. The Atlanta Falcons are an awful organization. They don't get credit for being one of the worst organizations in football. Like it's been 7 years since they made the playoffs, and they have just been continually shooting themselves in the foot over and over again. Nothing has changed as of now to make me feel any differently about that. I do think my prediction would be is I don't think Michael Penix is going to be the starting quarterback by like halfway of the season. I think Kirk Cousins is going to come back in and play football for them at some point this year, not because of injury, because of performance. So it sucks because I think for fantasy, I think for namesake, I think for everything, there's a lot of guys on this team who people are really excited about and really like. Like Bijan's amazing, Drake London's amazing. And it hurts that these guys are kind of getting screwed over by stifled ownership and coaching. But yeah, I'm gonna go out. I think the Panthers are gonna be a little bit better this year, and I think that they're gonna finish third in the division. And I think that the Panthers are gonna jump them this year. I know that might be jarring for some people to hear, but until the Falcons fire Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot, I'm not taking them serious in any way, shape, or form. They need different people in that building to kind of take them to the next level. So that's where I'm at with them.
One thing I will say that is in favor of the Falcons is they have like the 4th easiest schedule in the NFL this season.
They could have the easiest schedule in the NFL. It means nothing to me.
I know. I'm just saying like that works in their favor where it's like that could be the reason that they end up winning more games than they actually should based off of talent, full talent on this entire team. So like that's kind of what I'm trying to take into account here and what I'm leaning on. They also have a new defensive coordinator. They hired Jeff Ulbrich, the interim head coach from the Jets. So
they were really good last year.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say like him being there, like as the interim head coach, that is irrelevant to me. Just felt like it was worth noting that there will be a new guy running this defense. So take that how you will, listeners, but who knows? Who knows what's really going to happen with this Falcons defense with a new defensive coordinator? Because, like I said, it ultimately relies on can the guys that you brought in rush the passer? That's what I think that this defense is going to come down to.
Well, what's your prediction then for the 2025 season?
So, I know I said that earlier. I said earlier 8 games or 9 games, 8 games. I was looking back through my notes and I had them going 6-11, but I just looking at this schedule, I think it favors them a little bit more than 6 wins. So I'm gonna just go with another 8-9 season.
Yeah, no playoffs, 8 straight years.
Yeah, what a mess. That has to warrant exile.
I think there will be. All right, nice, man. Well, I'll have all these posted. Videos are ripping.
I just spit it. Good girl, we're getting paper as a passion. Collect the stash.